Hello, everybody, and a very happy New Year 2017. Is that how you say it? Time goes by. I hope you all had an amazing holiday, lovely Christmas with your loved ones, and a great New Year's Eve party. Is that how you say it? I never sound very genuine when I'm saying these things, mainly because No, I shouldn't even say this. Happy New Year, everybody. I really do care. It's the time of the year to make New Year's resolutions, which of course is a bit hard for me because I'm so close to perfection already that I really can't see a lot that I could possibly improve. But I've still given it some thought. Maybe I should do a little less sports because I've become too intimidating a physical presence. And I don't want people to be uncomfortable around me. Similarly, like a lot of people have been saying, like, Jan, stop burying me with your kindness. I gotta stop being too nice to people and leave them some room to grow, not solve all of their problems. So that's my New Year's resolutions. I hope you have some of your own. Another one, of course, is that I should crush all of you. Let's get it started instantly. You know the rules, because we never change anything about this show. Challenge me to a 3 or a 5-man game. I prefer 5, because it gives me more room to talk nonsense. Then I might click on you, or I might not if you're a premium member, and we might discuss the game. Or we might discuss something else. I believe that's pretty much it. Let's see if I got any challenges, and let's get this train wreck rolling. Can you get a train wreck rolling? I don't know. Oh, I changed the board colors. It probably makes the video harder to watch, but I was getting a little bit sick of the old ones. I'll probably switch back to them. But for this game, or probably for this show, let's go with these new confusing board colors. And let's play against Mr. Perbulo, 2198. Plays 1c4. I shall develop the knight. I've talked about this in past videos. If you want to go for e5, a lot of people like starting with knight f6 and only go e5 after white committed to knight to c3. There's many different schools of thought on that topic, though. He plays e3, g3 is a more established main line here. I'll play bishop b4, the main move, and queen c2 is what they normally do. Knight d5 is also a legal move. Let's see what Perbulo is up to. What does Perbulo mean? It's a German flag, but it's not a German word. Maybe it's just short for his name. Perbulo? I don't know. Plays queen c2. I think the main line is probably to take on c3 instantly, but I prefer castles when there's some weird sharp lines that I learned literally 20 years ago with knight d5, rook e8. But Perbulo wants to play it more quietly and goes d3, which is very unfair because it does throw me out of book. I guess I could still take, but I can also play it nice and slow. Since he's playing very slowly, I believe I do have the right to do the same thing. Still haven't worked on my TH. Maybe that should be New Year's resolution. Fix that TH. People are sick of that German accent. Another thing that I've noticed, and this one I'm serious about, is that I do have a very strange, verbal cadence. I pronounce words very randomly when I'm doing these shows. I don't think I do it in conversation, but I was watching some of this, what was it? This New Year's show I did the other day. It sounded weird. Anyway, he plays knight d2, which is sort of asking me to jump into action with knight d4 or something, but for now I'll play it straightforwardly. Play d5. Take here, knight d2. It's really asking for it. And, well, I'm not known as a sacrificial player. This situation seems too good to not do it. After bishop e2, knight f4. If he takes knight to d4, then ef4, and then have a look around. Feels like something should happen. I'm not sure it really will, though. Plays bishop f1. Ignores my brave sacrifice. I could renew the invitation with knight d4. And yeah, can I do this? I shouldn't get too carried away. I don't know. Let's sacrifice some pieces. Now he has to take. Then I'll go knight d4. Followed by e takes f4. And we'll see what happens. I have a feeling it's probably objectively correct, but it doesn't really suit my style. So I'm not sure if it's correct for me, if that makes any sense. Because I probably will mishandle the position. I also have a feeling Perbulo is not going to take by playing knight d4, which maybe I should have thought about before. But you can't have everything. Okay, so what now? Can still go knight d4. Takes a3. And takes c3, takes b4. I'm not really getting anywhere, am I? Very disappointing. I'm still not winning after all this brilliancy. See, that's what I said about me not being a great sacrificer. Now I'll spend all my time looking for something when I should just make a pragmatic move. Perbulu really refusing to ever accept any of my pieces. I'll force him to. You take that knight. I want to be a piece down, Perbulu. I'm not sure why I forced him to. It really did not make a whole lot of sense objectively anymore. Still, we got what we got. We do have one piece less, and main duty is going to be to keep his king in the center for long enough so that I can do some damage to him. Where should the queen go? D1, C1. He could go to A4, maybe that's what he's thinking about. Maybe that's what I should have thought about. But he goes to D1, and I think now I have no choice but to take here, keep the position open, see what happens. Probably not very correct anymore, what I've been doing. I'm sure it was correct initially, but it's been going downhill ever since. I didn't really pay attention in that Sicilian sacrifices day of school. Bishop e2. What can I do? I could take... then take on d3, but that's a little meek. F3, bishop takes. Nothing really happening. I could move this bishop, and if he castles, then f5. Then he gets to castle, which bothers me. I think I'll do that for lack of better ideas. Or knight takes e2, followed by f5. I'll think about it when we get there. Probably should start with f5. I've also been slow. So nothing really changed. Slow, whiny, fake self-deprecating. But we all know modesty is the most subtle form of arrogance. Nothing has changed on that front either. Same old, same old. My rating is very low. In my defense though, and I'm sure you really care about my Chess24 bad beat stories, I had some disconnect troubles earlier with the office line. Cost me some of my precious rating points. I don't know. I'll fix that. It's too low. What's going on in this game? I have no idea. I don't think I'm better. That's for sure. But I'm not sure if I'm worse. Should this knight move somewhere, knight g5, let's say I could take on c3, followed by taking on e2. So that's not an issue. He could just take on f4 when I would take here, then recapture either way. With probably rough equality, I don't know. a3 is possible. What do I do about a3? I could go bishop e7 when this knight would be trapped, but I'd like to play more actively somehow. What about this? Not sure if this is any good. Maybe I'm trying to show off for the first game, but once again it looked more entertaining. Because this bishop remains trapped after gf ed. At least I couldn't spot a square for it. So it looked like more fun. And finally Perbulo is collapsing when knight takes e4, because this pawn is gonna yield me very significant dividends in form of this rook. Queen a4 does not really help. And now I can go back to my own self. My own self and my old self. Just take pieces. No more holding back. Because a rook is a rook. That's pretty significant material advantage in my upcoming book on being a rook up. Therefore, I do quite like my chances here. Maybe Perbulo, once he got in a quick rook count, will start to appreciate my chances as well. Who knows? Bit of silence. Give me that. Slightly confusing, because Perbulo seems to be a perfectly strong player, that he does not like my chances of winning this position. But I can't blame him. I can only try to win this position. Normally, once I start complaining about people not resigning, I bungle things very quickly. Then again, a rook is a rook. Now I should find a witty double attack like this and increase my material advantage just a little bit. The excitement is slowly growing. Will I get to g2? And the answer is yes, I will. Therefore, Perbulo resigns. Thanks for the game. And another one. A lot of questions I've been getting. I see one in the chat here as well, and all over the many ways and places to express yourself. People are asking if I will do a 4th installment of my Black Repertoire video series. I will, but I don't like giving timelines. It took me a long time to finish the 3rd one, but I'm well aware that in order to meet d4, you also have to face the Trompowsky, the London, d4, knight f6, knight c3, all these horrible systems. And I will do a 4th video series about it. Don't ask me when. Might be soon, might not be. But it's on my to-do list somewhere. As if I had a to-do list. Sadly, I don't. Gotta shake off the New Year's rust. Very hard to banter. Let's play Azure Mist. Azure Mist. Mist could be a German word, where it means something like crap. I believe I'm allowed to say crap. Even though if you try typing it in the chat, we'll probably not get through. So he's from France, therefore probably Azure Mist means something very different. What's Azure? Blue? Azure French? Côte d'Azur? I don't know stuff. He plays the bishop game, which was briefly very popular when people tried to avoid the Petrov, like e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. In the heyday of the Petrov, a lot of people started playing this bishop c4, knight f6, d3. It's not so popular anymore, because if I go knight c6 here, white doesn't really have anything better than going knight f3 and transposing to the Italian. Well, it does give black some extra options, like the move c6. Therefore, a lot of people don't really feel the need to do this anymore, because no one's really, well, no one is too strong, but not that many people are playing the Petrov any longer. Therefore, this move order fell a bit out of fashion, but of course it's perfectly playable. I believe the main move is bishop b3 instead of e takes d5, but I also came across e takes d5 at some point in time, and frankly I can't remember a single thing. What I want to do is put very quick pressure on my center by going knight c3, bishop g5, rook e1, attack both of these poor central pawns, and if he manages to do that, that would be annoying. Yeah, very grandmasterly thoughts once again. I'll go bishop e7. If he goes rook e1, I have bishop to g4, which seems to maintain things. He goes h3, probably to prepare rook e1 and not to allow bishop g4. But it is a little slow. The other option was knight c3, followed by bishop g5. Now he goes rook e1, and I feel like if you can't defend them, advance them. I don't think that's a very good rule of thumb at all. I'm also not sure if this was a good move at all. After queen takes d8, my original intention was to go rook takes d8, which is natural enough, but after knight g5, having some problems with f7 and e4, so I might have to play the clumsier looking bishop takes d8. But had I anticipated this, I probably wouldn't have done it. Gotta try to keep this pawn. I'm not sure I will after knight c3, maybe bishop a5, but it's all a little awkward. Awkward is a great word, but it's not always precisely the word I'm looking for. I feel like in German we have more. We're missing the word awkward, but we have like words like peinlich or unangenehm that could describe certain situations better. I don't know. He plays bishop to d2. do I do? Probably try to hang on to Mr. e4 pawn. After bishop takes c3, bishop takes h6. There was bishop takes f6, followed by knight takes e4. So this was not ideal. Gaspar says, Gustav. Wow, addressing me as Gustav. Why would you do that, Gaspar? What's your name? Gaspar Kuto. Do people call you Kut? Kut. If you made a black repertoire for d4, d5, why now the Nismo? Probably means the Nimzo. I don't think I made a black repertoire for d4, d5. I made d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5. But I have talked a lot about my change of heart, so to speak, from going for the Queen's Gambit declined to the Nimzo. I just think it's a better opening. Let's see what Azure Mist is up to, because I think he just gave me a piece. I don't understand. Maybe he miscounted, or he thought that after bishop a5 I can't recapture, but I can, and I will. Therefore, I think he just blundered when knight c takes e4. At least I can't see the point. I could even have taken on g5, but it seems more logical to take this guy. And Azure Mist is trying to muddy the waters a bit here, but it's not really gonna help. I've become very conscious of my weird verbal cadence. Why would I pronounce muddy the strongest in that sentence? I don't know. 2 pieces up, right? This is going just the way I like it. Capturing all these pieces. One after another. A lot of opening questions in the chat. I do have an opening clinic, I believe tomorrow, so please reserve those for then. But yeah, normally there's nothing wrong with any opening. We just all have our different tastes. Do we? I don't know. And Azure Mist has seen enough now that I did stabilize my 2 extra pieces. He decided, you know what? 2 pieces are too big of a handicap to overcome. Therefore, he resigns, and I cannot blame him for that decision. I'm having a slight cold. I'm not sure if you guys can hear this, but yeah, my one... What do you call these things? Nostril? My one nostril is a little blocked, it feels like. Let's play against somebody we've never played against. A man from... Is this a continent? I was going to say the continent of Australia, but the continent is called Oceania. Probably badly mispronounced. And the country is Australia. What are the rules there? Australia not a continent, is that correct? Probably those are things I should know. But I have a thirst for knowledge, but not a lot of knowledge. Like I know 6, 7 things, but if Australia is a continent or not is not one of them. I do know the name of this opening, the so-called Slav defense. You can go knight f3, knight c3, e3, cd5. All these moves are legal. Generally after knight f3, black does not capture on d4, because then after e3, white quickly would regain the pawn. While white goes knight c3, d takes c4 is a serious move. Now after knight f6, another crossroads, e3, knight c3 are the 2 main moves. Queen c2 or queen b3 are sometimes played. cd is still possible. Let's play the main line knight c3 in this game. And Trebins shows his true colors. He wants to play the semi-Slav with e6, not the classical Slav, or whatever you call it, with d takes c4. Against the semi-Slav, bishop to g5 or pawn to e3 are the 2 main lines. I normally, especially when I'm caught off guard, like here, prefer the move e3, because you can play it with a little less theoretical knowledge, while here you have to enter the abyss of the Botvinnik variation, which is, well, for the unprepared, it's not much fun. If you give me some time to prepare, I'll probably gladly go here. But it's very hard if you don't really know what to do. Anyway, this is the starting position of the Botvinnik. Knight b7 or bishop e7 are the two main moves here. Once again, why do I pronounce main? Are the two main moves here. Plays knight b7, ef6, g3 was fashionable for a while, but allows rook g8, which I'd rather not allow. So, bishop b7, g3, c5, d5, queen b6, and some very long theoretical lines is what you normally see here. Very popular in correspondence chess, not so much in human chess, because to make this work for black is just so much time down the drain that you never regain. And even after you spend all this time, you're still not sure if the Botvinnik is really sound or if you're just suffering. While white players often tend to avoid it for practical reasons, as I've tried to explain. But still, it's a fascinating opening to analyze. I've spent quite some time looking at it, especially back in the days when I was with Jan Smeets, who's probably the world's leading expert on this opening. And the move b4 you're not supposed to get away with in this position. Once again, I'm not sure why, but it feels like de6 is a natural way to punish it. After bishop takes h1, I'm going to have to think. But there has to be something after ef, bishop takes c4, or immediate bishop takes c4. Things look quite dangerous for black. We'll figure it out once we get there. F takes e6, there's f7 winning the queen. So I have a feeling b4 is a mistake, and I hope it's because of d takes e6. But I cannot be sure. So let's think. Ef, king f7, bishop c4, king g6 looks forced until there. Then I wish I had a mate. And I mean mate in the sense of checkmate, not so much I wish I had a friend. Even though, don't we all need a friend sometimes? Long story short, I'll take here instead of ef7, because I couldn't see a mate. And this looks quite strong as well. For example, if knight e5, I can go ef7, knight takes f7, bishop b5 check. And all of a sudden this king has nowhere to go. And while f e6, I can still go f7 check. If b takes c3, ef7 is checkmate. Knight takes f6, then I got ef7, king e7, knight d5 check. Oh no, I don't have knight d5, hang on. Knight f6, I must have something. Ef, king e7, maybe queen e2. There has to be some win, but yeah, queen e2 looks fairly strong. I should have thought about this in advance. It's always a tricky balance, what you should have thought about in advance in Blitz, or what you should just do following your instincts. Queen a5, you probably should have thought about this move in advance, for example, because that's checkmate in one move, ending the game. Sorry. Tres beans. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, this Botvinnik thingy. But if you're going here, I believe the two main moves are knight takes f6 and queen b6. We mainly looked at queen b6 in our day. Bishop g2, castle, castle, b4. And this is a big starting position of a lot of craziness. So let me brag some more about defeating Trebins, whom I outrate quite a bit. But no victory is too cheap for me. I'm happy about crushing all of you. I'll play... Oh, I think I clicked on somebody else then, who I meant to click on. What's happening? Oh no, maybe I didn't click on anybody at all. It's a hard knock life. I was gonna say, let's stay in that part of the world, but I don't think that's 100% true geographically, because Shadowmate is from Canada, which even though sometimes I'm not sure if cities are in Canada or Australia, I still think they're not exactly next to each other. If anybody could confirm that Canada and Australia are not neighbors on the globe, correct? Shadowmate from the Canadas and plays the Nimzo Indian, which I just did a video series about, which I'm gonna pluck relentlessly because I really care that all of you watch it, so we can all learn and discuss our Nimzo Indian philosophies. I did not recommend the move c5, I recommended castles, because after c5, knight e2 always bothered me a tiny bit. It's not winning or anything, but it often leads to some lines where I feel black is earning more fire than he sought. That makes no sense. Anyway, knight g2, he castles. I believe the main lines are c, d, ed, and then castles or d5. After castles, I'll go a3. If bishop takes, knight takes, I'll have the 2 bishops, which is a good starting point. Well, after cd, I'll go a, b4. And also get a hold of the bishop pair. I do like the bishop pair. d6. Looks a bit slow, does it not? I don't mind. This is a common misconception that with the 2 bishops you should try to open the position ASAP. I don't think that's really the case. Normally you want to stabilize the position, because often in order to get the 2 bishops you had to pay a price like lack in development or whatnot. But then if you manage to stabilize, if you catch up on development, the 2 bishops only have to be on the board. They can play and will play a part later. You don't have to be in a hurry or anything to open the position to make their presence felt. Normally after I gave a wise speech like that, I just get crushed by the knight-bishop combo, but my point still stands. Now we got a position that's very reminiscent of the Nimzo Indian, this queen c2 for queen c2, castles a3 line. I guess I won a bit of time compared to those positions. But the black setup is very similar. He's going to go knight bd7 and hope for the best. Well, I'll just move the pieces around and hope that the 2 bishops work their magic at some later point in the game. I wish I was being facetious. But I'm not. That really is the plan. I also patiently waiting for Shadowmate to decide, I can't take this anymore. I gotta do something active. I gotta play d5. I gotta play cd4. And once he does it, I don't know, then I'll react to it. For now, since we're playing Shadowmate, let's keep up the shadow boxing and pretend to open this b file a bit for Mr. Rook. But since the rook is there, I feel like the time has come to move to some more direct operations. Not really surgical operations, but operations nonetheless. I'm trying to look into the camera with one eye and on the board with the other eye. But I'm not able to do it. He goes d5. Whoa! Let the games begin. Most obvious reaction would be to go rook b1, but I'm not sure how much I'm gaining by chasing this bishop away. dc5 is another obvious candidate. Rook c5 and something. Even queen b1 is interesting. So many options, so little time. I'll take you. Not so sure about queen b1. It's a bit of a random move, but it felt like it made sense to get out of this potential pin with tempo. Take this bishop. If he goes to a8, I might start pursuing Mr. a6. So yeah, pretty much your standard boring old Grandmaster's game, trying to somehow win based on superior chess technique without calculating anything. That never works, but it's the dream. We gotta have dreams. We gotta have resolutions. Gotta take some care that I'm not being checkmated on the king side, but I wisely put my bishop on f1 earlier to cover me against accidents on the g2 square. So I'm gonna hope that's enough protection for now. Anyway, I should make some half-sensible move at some point. Maybe e4 to block this bishop even further from doing me any harm. I don't know. I'm really struggling with the English today. Not just the verbal cadence part that we've grown accustomed to. But yeah, I haven't done a show for a while. Therefore, I'm not my usual idiomatic self. Thin line between idiomatic and idiotic. I'm sure no one's ever thought of that joke before. Oh boy. What do I want? I generally want to go rook b8 and somehow checkmate him on the back rank. I have a feeling it's not going to happen. So plan B would be to stabilize on the king side and then convert my passed a pawn in the distant future. And yeah, he stopped rook b8, so plan A is off the table already. I'll go for a different plan B. Just threaten checkmate in one move, because you never know. They might blunder it. The price to pay is that this construction here is a little awkward. And he didn't blunder it either. So I'll go f3, trying to cripple the bishop on a8. Once again, a bit of a drawback that the queen gets access to this square. But I had expertly planned to meet queen e3 check with queen f2. Then I realized that queen takes a3 is actually legal, because I can't take the pawn here. Therefore, I shall change all my plans. Can I? Wow, I gotta be careful now. Queen f2, queen f2, queen a3, bishop b2, queen a5. Yeah, not getting anywhere. So I'll go here. See? I saw this move. That's why I said I gotta be careful. Good news for me is it's just exchanging a bunch of rooks. So it doesn't really do anything in the grand scheme of things. But still, the fact that he has tactics like that at his disposal, it's normally a bad sign. I don't know. Let's exchange queens. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Looks like no queen exchange for me. So sad. Then I'll randomly target your pieces until you drop one. Wise man once said, if you attack your opponent's pieces 10 times in a row, they will blunder one. Probably not his exact words, but he said something along those lines. Bishop a4 is a very clumsy move that I already regret. I want to cover the rook so I can move this bishop, but bishop a4 can't have been the ideal way to do it. Now I gotta keep an eye on tricks like queen d4, rook c1, but I had it covered. I could just go back. And queen c8 is a better move. What do I do? I'm just trying to win on time here. So it's this usual phase of pretending to still make sensible moves while I'm waiting until I won on time. And sometimes this does not produce the most stellar off moves. Stellar enough though. Oh no, I thought that was it, but not yet. I could be a poor sport and play a move like queen e1 or queen d2, but why would you want to do that? Well, for pleasure. Who is next? Maybe it's time to go back to Europe. Let's find a European I've never played. Not a lot of Europeans here. Okay, it's not technically... not technically European. Actually, it is technically European. I changed my mind. I was gonna... You don't want to know. It's not very interesting. That's why you don't want to know. Not because I have any dark secrets. And wow, this... Which one is my right nostril? It's really bothering me while I'm playing against Gunnar 27. Or since he's German, might also be Gunnar 27. Which would be a strange way to spell the name Gunnar, though. So I'm gonna assume that he is a 27-year-old gun nut who had a lot of fun on New Year's Eve with his gun, and therefore he calls himself Gunnar 27. Or maybe the 27 doesn't refer to his age, but to the year 2017 and all this fun he had with his gun on New Year's Eve. Therefore, it's Gun Nut 2017. This is original intended name. This bishop d3 line is a line I never really looked at. I do recall that it was recommended in some places to meet it with a very early queen a5 and queen a6. I'm not sure if that's the right approach, to be perfectly honest with you. And to be perfectly honest with you, you don't want to see me cleaning my nose. So we'll switch briefly to this. I hope you enjoyed that little break. And we're back with the move queen to a6, which was my intention, as mentioned. If he avoids the exchange of queens, then my queen is quite well placed to avoid castles or whatnot. Well, if he takes, in general, in this structure, I believe the white space advantage means more when there's queens on the board, because you can build a kingside attack behind this pawn on e5. Well, without the queens on board, black has a reasonably easy plan to go whatever. c5, put a knight on c6, and claim I have the better bishop. At least that's my plan, to claim it. Not sure how I can keep that claim after bishop e3. But I still will. Who signed this mug I'm drinking out of? We have a lot of different signed mugs around the office. And I believe, I gotta apologize to all the people out there. I had to sign a lot of mugs because there was nobody else around. So I'm afraid a lot of people got a signed mug by me. The disappointment must be very bitter in all these homes where people said, oh man. I don't know what they said, but it must have been. It must have ruined many a Christmas. I am sorry, I protested myself. But I don't get to decide stuff around here. Is that true? I don't know. This knight is very awkward, by the way. It's knight on a6. Should probably have done something about it a bit earlier. But I failed to, and he's gonna punish me by putting a knight on b5. Knight c7 I could go, but I'm not sure I want him to take and then take on c5. Could also take first. That's what I will do. But even here, knight e takes d4. Looks like the white pieces are getting more activity than they deserve. cd is also legal. Now my plan was to go here. It's all a bit slow, but if I manage to at some point get my pieces out, whatever, bishop e7, king d7, rook c8, I'll still be in pretty decent shape. Knight d6 I thought I could take, ed, knight b5, and I didn't see a follow-up. So, what was I wondering? Whose signature is that? I don't know. Wasn't me. I'm also wondering where to put my king, but d7 feels a bit more natural than castles here. a3, he's sort of announcing his intention to play b4. Could fight against that by going rook c8, but no, by going a5, but that looks a bit weird. Weakening the b5 square like that. So I'll play rook c8 instead and hope to somehow trick him with some knight takes d4 action. I can't really see it happening. Another kind of unrelated question, but it's more of a complaint than a question really, is why is Gunner27 only 1692? He seems to be playing perfectly well. I need a plan to win this game. Probably this is not it, because after all the mutual exchanges, well said, Jan, there might not be enough stuff to win the game left on the board. And also, if he's as sharp as I expect him to be, he could take twice and play f5, ef, knight f4, which would leave me really regretting not having started with the move g6. So that's where we're at. Me hoping he does not spot f5, Mr. Gunner27. If he does, I'll eat some humble pie. Technically not a pie, I've been informed. But now I'm so scared about it that I'll throw in g6 just to stop it for a bit. Logical white plan is to go g3, h3, g4, and then f5 at some point. You normally want to start with g3 because after h3 I might go h4, fixing the pawn structure, even though some people would argue that h4 is a weakness that can be captured. What do I know? I threw in a little a6 just to stop any knight b5 annoyance. Now my next quest is probably... Why do I speak so weirdly? Now I'm very, very annoyed by myself. My next quest is probably to activate my king and, I don't know, infiltrate the white queen side somehow. King b6, knight c4, king a5, king b4, king b3. Might be not very realistic, but it's the plan. Step 1. Not so sure my knight wants to be on c4. Let's say he plays king d3. Bishop d2 is kind of asking for it because it would win more time there. But even now, this could be interesting. Keeping an eye on the d4 pawn. If the bishop goes back to e3, then I'll go for this king a5 operation. Well, if he goes king e3, I don't know what I'll do yet. But I could even consider taking on d2 and then king a5 and bishop b4. Something along those lines. Knight d1 makes the decision a lot easier. Just grab the pawn with check. And Gunner 27 will be very upset that this happened. Now I should not blunder bishop c5, b4. But I won't. And that leaves me with just a healthy extra pawn. Probably a winning position. b4. I should probably abandon most of my b4 based material in the year 2017. Always drives Svidler absolutely nuts when he's trying to explain something. And I keep joking about don't play b4, b4, b4 is any good. Nah, I'll keep doing it. Now that I think about it, it was fun b4. Will be fun next year as well. b5, a5. I'm showing horrible technique, mainly once again, because my technique is horrible. But my other excuse is that I am fairly certain that I will win on time. Therefore my focus drops a little bit. Because yeah, I'm not a chess scientist. Well, I am in the opening to some extent. But I don't really care about finding out the truth when I know that I'm safe in Flagsville already. And Gunner 27 has shot all his bullets and loses on time. Okay, one more game, and then another one. There's probably plenty more games yet to come. Against Mr. Kuba33 from the Czech Republic. Which, of course, lends itself to a lot of chess humor as well. But I'm sure even people from the Czech Republic are sick of being told that they didn't say Czech when they gave a check and all that stuff. Not gonna be able to do it. Especially since Kuba333 might not even be here. And if he's not around, then we cannot play. And abort I shall. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Abort. Did I count all the numbers? Yeah, I think I did. Alright, sorry Kuba. Who shall we play next? Let's play up. I'll just click somewhere. I clicked somewhere. C.H. Harubi from the USA plays d4. Nah, I gotta stay loyal to my new repertoire. He goes to bishop g5, the good old Trompovsky, or the Trompovsky. A hilarious pun that inspired many a world champion to use it. I've always thought that d5 followed by c5 is the best way to meet it, and that also seems the way to go at the highest of chess levels these days. I believe this c3 has recently been played by none other than Magnus Carlsen again in a game against Morozevich in the, where was it? World Blitz Championship? I believe that's where it was. And I'm out of book, but how bad can it be really? I will bravely allow him to go queen takes d5, queen b2, queen e4, queen a1, queen c2. But CHK has his own ideas, and he goes dc5. Well, I have a fairly pleasant choice. I could go queen b3, ab, then e5, bishop g3 is forced, bishop takes c5, with an endgame where I'm probably slightly better, or I could just go queen c5. I have a feeling this is a stronger move, so I'll go with this. Not sure, maybe slightly better. It's a bit too optimistic, but it's hard to see why I should be in trouble here. Knight d2. Once again, a bit of a choice. Taking here looks fine, taking here looks fine as well. If in doubt, I will grab the bishop and after HG castle. As usual, some complaints in the chat, not enough games, play against me, the usual stuff. I'm sorry, it's always hard to make everybody happy. We're trying our very best here, and I believe there's plenty Banter Blitzes all along the way on Chess24. I personally prefer 5-minute games over 3-minute games because it gives me some more time to talk. And I prefer talking to playing 8,000 games an hour because, yeah, I feel like one has to keep the banter element in the Banter Blitz, but it's up to everybody to do it as they want to. Yeah, that's my whole point. I'm basically, it's an advance I'm sorry section. So I'm very sorry if I did not get to play you or if I did not do things exactly the way you wanted me to do them. It's a hard knock life for us. As for the game, I am a little bit better because of my nice 2 bishops and the rook on a2 looks a bit misplaced. But the true fight is still to come. Not sure which rook should have gone to d8. Maybe it made more sense to take the other rook. He can't go bishop f3 yet because of bishop takes f2 and d2 was hanging. Well, knight f3 is of course possible, but I thought that his best piece arrangement was to have the bishop on f3 and then to put it on d5. So I'm happy to stop that. And I think I'll take another slow move g5 to stop him from going knight h4 and then bring the bishop out. I don't mind exchanging these rooks because my remaining rook will control the d-file. Well, his remaining rook is still a little passive over here. Now feels like as good a time as any to grab some more space. Yeah, this is unpleasant for white now. Knight h2 probably, rook d2, king f1. But it does not look nice. I should make sure he doesn't get to free himself. But probably it's nothing I need to be too worried about. Rook a5 is the only active move. But even rook a5 doesn't do all that much. So I went here. g4 is of course legal, but not exactly friendly to the horse on h2. I'll go a6 just in case. After rook a5, it might make sense to go somewhere with the bishop. So I never have to worry about this. And I'll keep asking the question, what is next, sir? Well, king e1 is next, very obviously, actually. Could have thought of the answer to that question myself on a good day. Bishop b4, there's rook a4, which is annoying, actually. Yeah, I should have thought of that. That was dumb. Oh, I don't like it when I'm dumb. Anyway, I'm still better, but yeah, I did not have to allow this. Now, knight f1 is impossible because of bishop b4, which means I still got a bit of a grip on the position and his pieces are still silly, but not the most stellar of techniques. f3 is kind of asking me to go e3. I could go bishop d6 first, but no, let's go e3. Which is also nice because this entry square becomes a lot more accessible. And the threat of bishop b4 or bishop d6 followed by bishop b4 is still quite strong. So he rightly plays g3 to stop me from doing that. But now I can resume my initial setup. It's still pretty hard for white to untangle. Even though every time I say that, he just untangles. And I tell myself, I could have seen that coming. But it is still pretty hard. Knight d4, rook c1 check is my main plan. I'm also threatening bishop takes f3. So I have a feeling the end might actually be near. I would like to claim victory because of the two bishops, but mainly the difference in rook strength is really what made white's life very tough. His rook on a2 didn't really find a way back into the game. And, well, he defended well, finding squares, and I missed lots of things. It was bound to end badly. I'm giving this finishing speech already because I can't see a way for white to avoid the loss of a piece. I'm threatening bishop takes f3. If knight, yeah, that's why he resigns. If knight e1, rook c1, knight d4, rook c1, and so on and so forth. So CH Charubi does call it a game. Can we find new opponent? What about this guy? Oops, I clicked somewhere. Does this work? Looks like FTM. It's not to be confused with an ATM. It's an FTM. Frankly, too much. Nah, I'm sure it means something else. Financial Times Madrid. Free the monarch? Nah, it doesn't make sense either. Anyway, he goes for d6, knight d7, e5. Sort of, yeah. Not committing to anything, but normally this transposes to some sort of King's Indian after knight f6, g6, bishop g7. Some guys like putting the bishop on e7, play knight f6, bishop e7, but I don't really understand the appeal of that. We'll see. He goes ed4. That's rare to commit stuff like this so early. Now I believe both e4 and g3 should give me pretty healthy edge, frankly. I'll go with this setup, where it's not ideal for black that he's committed to knight bd7 here. Else he would probably prefer to go knight c6, bishop d7, get some more space for his pieces. Well, here I do quite like my position. Of course, the game is just starting. I'm not claiming it's winning or anything, but it's a nice start. You go bishop g2, castles, b3, bishop b2. White can just enjoy his space advantage and his nice bishop on the g2 square. Well, for black, it's not so easy to come up with a plan. Or, well, we'll see. Wouldn't be so easy for me if I was black to come up with a plan here. Maybe he's going to do something hyper-aggressive like h5, but I have my doubts if that's good. Bishop e7, I could go knight f5 and go bishop pair chasing, but I have a feeling that my pieces are well enough placed, and since black is at a space disadvantage, as much as I like bishops, it's not an obvious decision that I should go after this bishop and help him in a way by exchanging pieces. Knight c5. So again, I could go for something like b4, knight e6, knight f5, but nah, no need. I'll just slowly, well, I'm not sure if b4 or b3 is better. Now, let's not overdo the restraint. I'll do it now. After all this talk that I shouldn't help him, blah, 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 I'm still going after the bishop. But I like my position. It's weakness on d6. I have two nicely placed bishops. He has to go rook e8 to make me take, and he does. For now, I'll just proceed developing naturally. Queen d2, put a rook on d1, see what happens. I can start playing on the queen side anytime I want with b5 or a4, b5. But for now, let's target the d6 pawn, see how he defends it. Probably rook d8, but that's a little clumsy, so it's not ideal. Ideally, black would want bishop d7, rook a d8, and bishop c8, but he's not in time to do that. Therefore, he has to take that rook, and now, yeah, I can maybe start expanding a bit more on the queen side. b5, I have to at least give some thought to knight c5 and some knight b3. So maybe a4 was not as useful as I was hoping it would be. I could go bishop a3 first. That feels a little odd as well. Still, I'll do it. But it's a pity because his bishop was quite powerful on the long diagonal too. Can't always get what you want. My point is now knight c5 is impossible because I take. Then I take on d8. But as mentioned, I like this bishop on b2 as well. So, not sure this was the way to do it. Still a nice position, not pleasant to be black. Probably bishop d7. Sacrificing this d6 pawn is actually the best bet. Takes, takes, exchange everything, put a knight on c5 and hope to somehow keep it together. But of course, white is seriously better. After bishop d7, I might even consider a move like knight e4. Probably I wouldn't do it, but I might consider it. It's as strongly as I'll word this. I might actually do it. We'll see what FTM does. He can play c5, but then yeah, I go knight d5, bishop back to b2, and try to resume control of the position. Or I don't think I've lost it. He goes queen f6 instead. Can't I just take the pawn? What's the trick? Guess we'll find out. I am a fairly greedy fella, so you do not have to convince me to take such a pawn normally. Yeah, I don't really see any compensation. Of course, I still gotta be alert, and there he comes. He's trying to trick me with knight a3 check. So f4, I guess. Yeah, why not? Weakening the king slightly. Should never be done without giving it some thought. But I felt like knight a3, king g2. I have such a strong grip on the center that it's not gonna hurt me all that much. And now I'm feeling this queen might struggle finding a square where it's not running into a nasty family fork, as it happened here. And therefore, the game is over. Yeah, that was a reasonably smooth victory, mainly because his opening choice, I think, yeah, made life a lot easier for me. It's just not a very nice position for black, in my opinion. Thanks for the game, Mr. FTM. Let's play Kayakin fan by heart. Kayakin gained a lot of fans during the World Championship match with his sportsmanship, being a good loser in the interviews, being very fair. Also his manager became a bit of a TV star in Norway because he was constantly on Norwegian TV. So even though Kayakin lost, I think, yeah, he did himself many favors by picking up a lot of new fans and leaving a good impression there in the match. And he also had a happy end to the year 2016 by winning the World Blitz Championship on December 30th. Kayakin in the match had never had to show what he was intending against his knight f3, knight c3. So Kayakin fan by heart, German dude, might have studied all of Kayakin's recent games, but he just doesn't know what his hero was planning to do here. Bishop e7, bishop f4. a6 is not the main move, but it's normally a playable move in all kinds of Queen's Gambit declined situations here. I'll go for the space grabbery c5. There's alternatives. cd5 is possible. Rook c1, a3. You name the move, it's probably possible. But c5 is often a fairly principled choice in these positions. Bishop h5 is also a principal reply, getting a hold of the white bishop before I go h3 and create a little lift for it on h2. So yeah, so far so good. White has double pawns and black has the two bishops, but white has a nice space advantage with his grip on the queen side here. Therefore, these positions normally aren't so easy to play for black, even though concretely I'm not sure at all what's going on here. And since I am sneaky, I will play h4, which is not the best move in the position, but my plan was to go bishop takes h7 followed by knight g5 check. Didn't happen though. Sorry. Kayakin fan by heart sniffed it out immediately and stopped me from delivering checkmate. I'll try again, this time even in less subtle a manner by going bishop c2, queen d3. I'm not sure if any of this stuff I'm doing is very sound objectively, but can't blame a Kayakin fan for trying. Doesn't make any sense. Now my main agenda is to stop knight d7, knight f6, knight e4. Therefore I went g4. If knight d7, I want to go g5. And at least tighten the grip on the king side. I also have to worry, I might be a bit overextended here, about a5 actually, because I'm not in time to go a3 to cover the b4 pawn because of a takes b4. So yeah, I might not have handled this perfectly, to put it very, very mildly. So in order to stop this a5 stuff, I'll start a fake offense myself on the queen side, go a4, maybe threatening ab5, but really my main motivation is that he can't go a5, or I hope he can't, blowing open the queen side. Kayakin fan by heart goes g6, which is a little odd. Probably wants to introduce the idea of f takes g4, but I'm not sure he should be messing with that. h5, fg, hg, gf, g7, looks good enough. g6 strikes me as, yeah, just weakening his own position. So I'll try to open it a little further. What's going on? I see some yelling in the chat. Was I gone for a moment? I'm sorry. I know it's hard to handle if I disappear for a couple seconds. Wasn't on purpose. So once again, I apologize deeply. I have no idea what happened. But I've had some, internet blackouts, as I reported earlier today. I don't know, maybe the line is not as stable as we would like it to be. I don't know. What's the line I was calculating earlier? Takes, gf, g7, king takes, queen h7, king f6, rook h6. That looked good. Oh wow, I did miss g7, rook f5 though. I'm probably still in good shape after queen takes f3, but these small details should normally be considered before sacrificing a piece. I don't know. Should have been more focused against Mr. Kayakin fan by heart. Should g5, very showy, because ef5 is check. But it might not save him in the grand scheme of things, because rook e1 is still coming. If this bishop now moves, rook takes h6 is coming. Well, king g7. I will find a way to, not to his heart probably, but to his king, which is the next best thing. Therefore, Kayakin fan by heart resigned. Yeah, not a stellar game by either side, to put it mildly, but now my attack would probably have crashed through. One more game, or probably more than one more game. I should stop saying that. What about our boy Caldering? Let's have another little nose break. Sorry about this. And we're back. My actually sincere apologies for all these code-based interruptions. While we're playing against Karl Niering, very German-sounding name, from the United States of America. And after c4, for variety's sake, I went g3. I went c6, he went g3, bishop g2. I'll play knight f6. And knight f3 is probably the most topical move. Knight c3 you don't see so often. First of all, I could go d4, when this knight would have to move again. But I have a feeling I can also take now, and it's going to be much harder to recapture that pawn when this knight is committed to c3, because there's no more queen c2 followed by queen c4, and there's also no more knight a3, knight takes c4. So I'm guessing that's why knight c3 is a little less popular. Still not sure what to do next, to be honest. I'll play it greedily. put the knight here to cover the pawn. Not sure that's the best way to handle this position. Probably it's not. If white goes b3 here, he tends to have decent long-term compensation for the pawn. If there's cb, ab, just because he has more pawns in the center, and it's not so easy to make the extra pawn count, really. Nick4 is saying, what are the next video series coming out? I have no idea. I'll do this part 4 one day, but I don't know. I just published mine. I was planning to rest on my laurels for like a year or two. Doesn't sound like it's gonna be possible. But don't you worry, there's gonna be stuff. e4 I'm not sure I'm a fan of, because it weakens all these squares. What else am I missing? Okay, Alekinin complaining that he doesn't get to play. That's pretty much business as usual. Something would be off if that would not be happening. Killer05 also wants to play with me. Once again, I'm operating under the assumption that everybody who's challenging wants to play, but I could be wrong about that. Let's see what Karl Nering is up to. He plays a3. I don't like that move. I think he should have played b3 instead. I'll put the bishop here. Looks like the most active place to go. What can you do? I have a feeling, yeah, Karl has not found a way to make sense of his opening play. And now it's going to be very tough against this pawn. This extra pawn I have on c4. And with all these weaknesses, like f2 is very weak. I could already go bishop takes f2, king f2, queen d4 check. I think I'll start with queen d4. Looks even stronger. Knight takes g4, knight takes g4. When, yeah. Things could get ugly. Sorry, Mr. Nering. Goes rook e3, but now I can just cash in another piece. Well, yeah, there's not much to say. A rook is a rook. Currently it's only a piece, but I can take on e3 at will. So this game is pretty much over. Unless a miracle happens, or I run into connection problems once again. And Karl Nering has seen enough, yeah. I believe in the opening already. This knight c3 move I really didn't like. Knight f3 is a different story. Or you could play b3 or a move like that, if you are afraid about dc4. But after knight c3, dc4, I'm not sure things are bad, but it feels like it's a little tricky for white already. So let us play somebody else. Let's play our good old friend of the program, Mr. Schellingford, FIDE master of the check. Of the check? Of the chess. If he's there, he is there. He goes e4. I shall meet that by putting my pawn in the center of the board as well. I have 3 knight c6. Let's see what Mr. Schellingford does. He goes bishop b5. I'm one of the last suckers out there that still have not mastered the Berlin defense. Therefore I still gotta do my old nonsense, like the marshal, the anti-marshal, the fake marshal. Schellingford plays a bit of a sideline. Bishop takes c6 followed by d3, which I'm not very familiar with, but for now the pawn on e5 was hanging, so I guess I had to cover it. Let's see how this proceeds. Knight h4. What am I supposed to do? I think I could go g6, but I don't really want to. I'll go here. Knight f5. I've seen this position somewhere recently. Can't remember anything about it though. In the old days we used to go bishop takes f5 here. That makes white's life a little easier maybe. Makes the position easier to play. So I'll play some random move like king h8. Get out the way and let him take his own decisions. But I'm not sure if that's the way to handle this, frankly. I haven't looked at this line within, more than 10 years. So probably it's something I should update. It's normally not very high on the list of anybody's worries. But still, it's not an excuse. f4. Yeah, it could be slightly worse after ef. Could go bishop e6, fe, bishop c4, ef. I don't know. Let's find out what happens. Not so sure. In general, it's always a tricky question in these structures because you normally want both of your minor pieces on e6, the bishop and the knight. So which one to really put there is always a tough decision, for me at least. Lacking understanding of these things. Well, bishop e6 looked like a more direct way to play, at least, because I'm threatening bishop takes c4. And I briefly thought about fe, bishop c4, ef, but it looked like I'm getting my pawn back, and I'm at least equal there, so it wasn't too scary. We'll see what white does. He could just play b3, or he could play like he does knight e3, very natural move as well. But now I was hoping that at least his coordination would be a little more messed up than if I had taken on d4 immediately. Still, white has a super solid structure, so if anybody's better here, it's white. I still have to be careful, but that is my second name. Not true, actually. I don't have a second name. Rook f8 is a weird move. I don't like that move. Should have kept the rook on f8 to prepare some potential f5s. Oh! That was a strange move. Not happy with it at all. So, time to think about what I want to do next. He will probably try to develop his pieces somehow, bishop d2 or whatnot. I, of course, want to trick him. Oh, he goes knight f5 immediately. Whoa. That's legal, but it strikes me as a little untimely. Queen d7, bishop e3, we're not getting anywhere. Okay, I'll take them. No tricks. It feels like I should have some tricks, but maybe I don't. Nah, still no tricks, so I'm gonna have to resign myself to my slightly worse but solid position. Go knight e6, c5, b6. And cry myself to death. To death? To sleep. Let's not cry ourselves to death. That's weird. Why do such phrases even enter my head? Scary. White is so solid, I don't know how to trick him. Probably I should just try to make a mess out of it, even if it's slightly incorrect means, before the pawn structure settles. I'm gonna try to confuse Mr. Fort. I haven't really given the proceedings after DC any thought, but I had the feeling that something should pop up. Like dc4, knight d4 maybe. Takes, rook takes, and e4 is very weak at least. Or dc, queen b4, b3, queen c3. I don't know. What happens if I go here? Let's find out. He probably should take, because else I might fork him up. I don't know, you could take and go e5. After fe, I guess it's roughly equal. Not sure if white has anything better. Probably not. b3 is legal too. But now I'm starting to think, if anybody's slightly better, it's probably me. Because I have the slightly healthier pawn structure. 3 versus 2 on the king side. All the good stuff. And it's a little, my king is a little safer because of my extra f-pawn. And it's a little easier for me to create a passed pawn in the distant future on the king side. But for now, I'll try to make use of my extra unit on the king side. Not sure I'm making use of it very well, but I'm still trying. If at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. Nah, I've played this badly. Oh boy. Should have fought a little more for the d-file. Yeah, that was ridiculous. But what to do? Grab the rook. Is there any checkmates? I don't see any checkmates. So I'll grab the rook. Give me that rook. Queen g3, I believe, was a better move. Because there's no real checkmates. Queen f6, king g8, rook d7. Then there is queen f4. So yeah, that didn't quite work out. Sorry, Mr. Ford. Let's play another game of chess. What about... to honor my newfound obsession with everything Japanese, which it's not everything Japanese, it's just Terrace House, which is, I don't know, is it a Japanese version of Big Brother? It's not a very interesting show. It's just 3 males and 3 females in a house, and they film them all the time. So I guess it is a Japanese version of Big Brother, but I just can't stop watching. I'm totally obsessed with it. It's in Japanese. I don't speak a word of Japanese except for arigato, which I guess doesn't mean thanks? I'm not sure. So yeah, I literally don't speak a word of Japanese, but I'm obsessed with it. It does have English subtitles. I'm almost done with season 2. And it looks like Holy Stone is not even there. He's probably watching Terrace House, and I cannot blame him for it. Don't watch it. It's not a real recommendation. Normally I try to give quality recommendations. This is more of a very, very guilty pleasure thing I have. I can't stop watching Terrace House. But it looks like Holy Stone's not with us, so I'll abort this game. Sorry, Holy Stone. Let's play somebody else. I want to play someone I've never ever encountered in the whole history of Banter Blitz. Is there such a player? Going through my list here. First name I see that I've never played, I'll click on. And I found one called Tuliol? Taliol? How do you pronounce it? Taliol from Ireland. Plays d6. My go-to move against d6 and knight f3. c4, there's e5. Well, 2e4 is of course a perfectly good move, but often doesn't fit with the d4 player's repertoire. Therefore, this is the stuff I normally do. We've seen it earlier in a game where black took on d4 very quickly, which I was critical of. Here after e5, g3 is a move as well, but I've played classically this time around e4, bishop e2. Bishop e7 is a so-called old Indian, well, more popular as the King's Indian, with g6. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the nose. h6 is this weird setup where you go queen c7, g5, knight f8, knight g6, and hope you don't get crushed in the center before building up that stuff. I think, yeah. Some Dutch guys wrote a book about this, right? I don't think it's very good, but it's creative at the very least. This h6, g5, queen c7, knight f8 setup. But at the very least, you should start with queen c7, because if you start with knight f8, I'll just grab the pawn, and you're not going to get to have any of the fun, just the misery. So I believe the timing by Mr. Tuliol was a little off there. That was h5. I will take here and be 2 pawns up. People in the chat are complaining that I'm playing someone with a rating of 1084. I'm doing this every show, but I'm happy to do it again. I'll mention once again, this is not... I don't discriminate by rating. I mainly consider this a service to me, because because it entertains me, and to the premium members, everybody gets a chance to play against a world-famous, incredibly strong Grandmaster. Oh boy, I sound very serious when I say that. So yeah, I don't really discriminate by rating at all. I slightly discriminate by if I haven't played against you yet, your chances are higher. But I try to do enough random clicking in my list that's not the dominating factor. I don't know, I just play whomever I want is my main point. Here I am a piece and a pawn up, so it's not terribly interesting. But maybe Tuliol will learn a valuable lesson that, at the very least, he should go Queen c7 if he wants to play the setup. Or even better, he should not play the setup at all, because it's not a very good opening. Then again, at the 1000 or 1100 rating, I don't think it matters all that much what openings you play. It's more about, sticking with the game, absorbing more information, and, improving your feel or your tactical skills, whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's that important which opening you choose, even though I tend to be fairly dogmatic and tell people play classical openings, because later when you improve, then you'll have a foundation there already and don't have to start from scratch abandoning all your trashy openings. But there is no one way, and I've certainly played lots of trashy openings when I was younger, and I regret it. He resigns, because now, if after king d8, rook d1, I would win another piece. Let's play one final game before we all go home. What's this? This guy has a 1-1 score against me? That's blasphemy. I don't even know what blasphemy means. I'm pretty sure it's not correct in this context. Pseudonyasty. From Germany, another German. Robert Mazurek. I must crush him to take the lead against Mr. Pseudonyasty. If he's with us. Maybe he's not. Doesn't look like it. We'll start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Abort. Oh, no! Just as I clicked abort, he made a move. Sometimes, can lead you to resign a game. But there he is. d4, d5. I will play c4. Let's see what Sodo's up to. He plays the Slav. I've played knight f3, knight c3 earlier this game. I'll go with knight c3, e3. Line I used to play a lot, but I ran out of ideas against e6 at some point. Bishop f5 is possible here as well. After queen b3, I believe, there's this trendy pawn sacrifice that Pseudonyasty is employing. I looked at this once. I didn't fully believe it for black, but I can't remember why that was. And it's very possible that I have a feeling I already lost a game in Banter Blitz in this very line. So it's very possible. All of this is a deja vu for Pseudonyasty. I can't remember details. I do remember that bishop e2 followed by knight f3 was one plan. Another plan was to go knight g e2. Either here or instead of taking on e5. Maybe instead of taking on e5. Anyway, this bishop e2 intending knight f3 looks fairly logical. Black gets very free play for his missing pawn with bishop d6, short castles, whatever, queen c7. It's an interesting line. It starts with queen c7, but I'm not sure if it's fully correct. I'll go here. It looks logical as well, threatening some knight b5 and not castling into knight takes f3, bishop h2. We'll see what happens. If castles, can I go knight b5? Bishop takes, knight takes, rook takes is a problem, yeah, and then bishop takes, queen a5 check. So I can't do that, therefore I will castle into the roaring attack by Pseudonyasty. And we'll see how he plans to checkmate me. Goes knight eg4, which is fair enough. I should calculate bishop g4, knight d5. Does that make sense? Bishop d1, knight c7, looks okay. Bishop h2, king h1, that's too complicated. I'll just go g3. If he checkmates me, more power to him. Could have played h3 as well, but you always gotta be careful with h3. Either knight h2 or sometimes there's these ideas with bishop h2, king h1, bishop g1. Many tricks. I believe here after h3, bishop h2, followed by bishop g1 would have worked. Therefore g3 looked like a more cautious way to play. Now I'm probably threatening some knight takes d5. Or at least I'm threatening something. We'll see how. Maybe some knight b5. See how so dynasty. Am I mispronouncing that very badly? So dynasty? I don't know. Another thing I've become obsessed with is I'm losing my hair on the, what how do you call this? On the temples over here. So I'm checking every morning now about my receding hairline. I think it's gonna be a new obsession until I finally go bald in like 30 years. But until then, I will spend every show like doing this. Oh boy. Anyway, rook e8. Can I take? Knight takes, bishop g4. Where's the trick? I don't know. I am very greedy. Knight b5 was probably the, yeah, maybe the easier way to play. Just get rid of one of the bishops with a big advantage. But if I can take a pawn, I will normally do so. What's going on in the chat? Some dude called Killer05 keeps yelling, please play against me. I don't know. I think I've also mentioned this many a time that normally I don't like all this yelling in the chat because I'm assuming that you all want to play against me. So we can use the chat for other topics. But as usual, apologies if I have not managed to play against everybody. Jogger is saying, Jan, I have the hair thing too, and I'm only 26 and a half. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm not that worried about it. It's just a new obsession of mine. But I guess it does happen. Does it happen to all of us? I don't know. I'll just get a toupee if things get real. Rook to e4. I'm not sure if I should go bishop f3 or take. I'll take. If in doubt and 2 pawns up, then simplify. But there was also a lot to be said for bishop to f3, because this was technically my good bishop covering the king. I'm not sure. Knight f6. It's time to develop the other bishop. b3, bishop b2, or bishop d2. Nah, I don't want to drop this pawn. I'm guessing he's going to try to checkmate me with some queen h3. Knight g4, rook h4 operation. But for now, my queen is doing a pretty decent job of covering the king. Queen h3, let's say bishop b2. Knight g4, I have queen g2. And so on and so forth. He plays bishop e5, which is sensible. I'll continue to develop a bit. Queen d5, threatening rook takes d4. Some last little tricks, and why not? Can I go rook d1? That would be the most elegant way to handle this. Bishop d4. Nah, then bishop d4 is annoying actually. Okay. King g2, g5. Surprisingly annoying to meet. I'll go here, put my queen on a protected square, but it's normally not a good idea to fianchetto your own queen. Because this is a job reserved for bishops. Queens, they can move not only diagonally, but also, what do you call this? Vertically, horizontally. So normally they're not using all of their skills if you use them as a bishop. I am up on the clock, which is always a nice thing, because then I can flank you. And I also have more pawns than Mr. So Dynasty. So yeah, things went badly there. As for the opening, I don't know. I think I did not fully believe in this gambit, but I'm often skeptical about gambits. Here, yeah, I'm not sure where it went wrong. Maybe knight eg4 is too aggressive. Maybe this knight should go to the other side to c4. Put some pressure on the queen side as well. That actually looks like a better move, knight c4. Well, who knows? I should check it some more. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm not in the mood yet to apologize. The year has just started, so I'm not really that sorry for anything in 2017 yet. I'm sure we'll get there. Tomorrow is my opening clinic. I've already seen a ton of questions, so I'm not sure I will get through it. But yeah, it's good to be back. I'm motivated for this year 2017 to crush it with all the content stuff. We're gonna do our Weihnachtszeit show from our studio in Hamburg. It's just gonna be a 24 show where I'll be joined by the one and only Peter Svidler for like half of the distance. And then the other one and only Lawrence Trent, the forgotten son. Lost son, not forgotten, is making a comeback, and I believe will host the second half of the show together with me. So it should be a lot of fun. Before that, we'll do our random shows and so on. So I'll see you guys. Thank you so much for watching. That's it. Bye.